You don't hate hard work. If that was true, you would hate success too. But you don't. You watch powerful people, disciplined people, focused people, and a part of you admires them. So the problem is not the work. The problem is what the work does to you. Because the moment you start taking life seriously, something inside you feels uncomfortable. You become quiet. You become intense. You stop joking. You stop escaping. And suddenly, you don't recognize yourself. That's the real fear. Hard work doesn't scare you. Losing your old identity does. And tonight, you're about to understand why.
Armin wasn't a lazy person, but every night, that's exactly what he called himself. He had these huge dreams. He wanted to wake up at the crack of dawn, hit the gym, bury his head in books, build something that mattered, and completely transform his life. But every single morning, the moment his alarm went off, he felt this immense weight. It wasn't physical. It was all in his mind. He'd just lie there, staring at the ceiling, whispering to himself, just 5 more minutes. Of course, those 5 minutes always turned into 30. And that 30 minutes? It turned into a wave of guilt. And that guilt became the story he told himself over and over. I am just not disciplined. He really did try so many times. He created detailed schedules, binged motivational videos until his eyes were sore, deleted all his social media apps. He even bought a brand new notebook and scribbled his biggest goals in bold letters on the very first page. For the first 2 days, he felt like he was on top of the world, truly powerful. But then, on the 3rd day, something strange would happen. When his gym trainer pushed him to do 1 more rep, he felt small and weak. When he tried to study with real seriousness, he felt exposed, like all his gaps in knowledge were on display. When he attempted to truly focus, his mind became restless, jumping from one thought to another. It wasn't the work itself that was the problem. It was the feeling that came with it. You see, hard work wasn't just about sweat and effort. It was about the silence. It was about sitting alone with your own thoughts, with no distractions. It was about facing your weaknesses head-on, with nowhere to hide. The one who was constantly uncomfortable. When he was working hard, he wasn't the funny guy in his friend group anymore. He wasn't the relaxed, easygoing person who could laugh at anything. He became intense. He became quiet. Because deep down, he didn't really know who he was without the comfort of his old self. He didn't know this new, intense person he was becoming. So instead of facing this difficult truth, he chose the easier explanation. He chose the simpler story. I'm lazy. It sounded straightforward. It felt safer. It was a convenient label that explained everything away without him having to dig any deeper. But laziness was never the real enemy. Laziness was just a mask. The real enemy was the identity shift that was happening. Hard work was fundamentally changing him, forging a new version of himself. He wasn't ready to say goodbye to the comfortable, familiar person he had always been. The struggle wasn't about a lack of discipline. It was about the fear of becoming someone he didn't recognize. So many of us face this. We think the problem is our lack of willpower or our tendency to procrastinate. But maybe, just maybe, the real battle is with who we are afraid of becoming. The focused, dedicated, and maybe even a little bit intimidating person that's waiting on the other side of hard work. It's a profound change, and it's okay to be scared. But recognizing that fear is the very first step toward finally pushing through it. It's about understanding that growth requires you to shed your old skin. If this story resonated with you, please consider subscribing for more content like this. We'd love to have you as part of our community. One evening after another, I'll start tomorrow day, Armin sat alone in his room. The lights were off, and a mirror on the wall. He looked at himself, not quickly, Not jokingly, but seriously. He asked himself, why do I run when things get serious? But slowly, like a whisper, because when you work hard, you can't hide. When you train your body, you see how weak you are. When you study deeply, you see how much you don't know. When you build something, you see how many mistakes you make. He didn't hate effort. He hated meeting the version of himself that effort revealed. The one who fails before improving. That version hurt his ego. It made him feel ordinary. And he wanted to feel special without suffering. He wanted results without transformation. But life doesn't work that way. The mirror doesn't lie. And that night, he understood a dangerous truth. He wasn't afraid of hard work. He was afraid of becoming someone new. Because becoming someone new means killing who you used to be. And that feels like loss, even when it's growth. The next morning, the alarm rang again. Nothing magical happened. He still felt heavy, still felt resistance. But this time he didn't say, I'm lazy. He said something different. This is the old me trying to survive. He got up anyway, not with motivation, but with awareness. At the gym, he felt weak. But instead of feeling ashamed, he thought, good, this is the real starting point. But instead of quitting, he thought, this confusion is growth. Hard work stopped feeling like punishment. It started feeling like identity construction. He wasn't forcing himself anymore. He was building himself. And he realized something powerful. You don't hate hard work. You hate the ego death that comes with it. You hate seeing your flaws. You hate feeling average. You hate not being instantly good. But the moment you accept that the new you will feel awkward, silent, and imperfect, everything changes. Because then hard work is not an attack on who you are. It is a bridge to who you can become. And Armin finally understood. Comfort protects your current identity. Discipline builds your future identity. And if you want a new life, you must be ready to become someone you don't recognize at first. That is the real battle, not against work, but against yourself.